Hello, I am Matthew Guy, and I will be guiding you through the most current issue of the journal Cell. So, a little background. Cell is a peer-reviewed scientific journal that publishes research papers which encompass a pretty wide spectrum of biological disciplines. Article topics include cell biology, microbiology, molecular biology, genetics, biophysics, biochemistry, immunology, medicine, pretty much everything and anything that goes on inside of a cell. The purpose of the journal is to provide a platform for the presentation of high-quality, cutting-edge research, with the goal of enhancing the knowledge, awareness, and congruity of the global scientific community. So, as we can see, this particular issue of the journal has 22 articles, each of which has been authored by a different professional in the scientific community. They are presented in a variety of genres, and they've been partitioned into these different sections that you see here. There's the Select, the Bench to Bedside, Voices, Previews, the Review, the Articles, which comprise the bulk of the journal, and down at the bottom, the Snapshot. So let's take a look at these individual sections in a bit more detail. Starting with the Select, there is the essay entitled One Cell in a Million. So this is the introductory article to the current issue of the journal, and it's pretty accessible. The reading's pretty easy, and there's not a lot of community-specific vocabulary and terminology in here. The overall purpose of the essay is kind of to spark your interest and get your imagination going. They try to accomplish this by highlighting a new biological imaging technique called MEMOIR. And down here, the author presents a few hypothetical situations where these new techniques may find application in future research. Heading back to the main journal page, we next have Bench to Bedside, Splicing Correcting Therapy for Spinal Muscular Atrophy. And I guess this is supposed to be some leisurely bedtime or maybe bathroom reading for the more scientifically inclined. But anyways, we have this brief introductory paragraph here, and if we click download PDF, we get this nice document, which includes a cartoon helping to illustrate the concepts of the therapy, some data and nomenclature over here. We have big, bold statistics. And down at the bottom, we have a timeline of the major developments in the history of spinal muscular atrophy. And as we can see here, in 2011, ISIS was involved in the phase 1 clinical trials. Pretty neat. So, after Voices, we have Previews, and the previews contain a few brief articles that summarize some ongoing and cutting-edge research. They're a bit more in-depth than the ones we looked at thus far. And taking a look into one, we see that there's a page or two worth of text, and we have this cartoon here to aid in visualization of the information that's been provided. And if we take a look into this text, we see there's a lot more community-specific terminology and acronyms in here. So the author at this point is just assuming that you have enough experience and knowledge of this particular subject to be able to understand all of this. The review is a very in-depth and thorough article intended to provide a baseline of understanding for the community on a select topic. In this case, it's RAS proteins and their regulators. This article has 3 authors and draws this information from a ton of different research. As we can see down in the references section here, there's just a ton of citation. The article also contains a few cartoons and reference graphs to support and reinforce the information in the text. Okay, so here we are at the articles. The article section contains original research and is really the meat and potatoes of the journal. As you can see, there are a lot of articles in here. So we'll take a look at one that looks cool. CRISPR-Cas system, sweet. And this article is written as a classic scientific report and contains massive amounts of data and a ton of community-specific lexis. And the material is really only accessible to subject matter experts. So the purpose of a scientific report is to present the community with new findings based on original research and experimentation. And as we can see, there's an abundance of cartoons, images, graphs, 3D models, all supporting the research. Scientific reports are typically broken down into several different sections. There's the summary, introduction, results, which in this case has several subsections. And then we get down to the discussion section. And there's methods. And this particular report has a supplemental information section with a couple videos, in case you happen to be rusty on your cryo-electron micrograph reconstruction. And then we have the references. So let's briefly talk about the purpose of each of these individual sections. If we get back to the top. Okay, so the summary, it's pretty self-explanatory. It summarizes the research that was conducted. And we have this graphical abstract to go along with the summary. The introduction is where the authors give a little background information on their research topic and the problem that they were looking to solve. The results section provides very detailed explanations of the experimental findings along with all supporting data. And it is by far the lengthiest section of the report. Moving past this to the discussion section. The discussion section is where the authors elaborate on their experimental findings, and they have a chance to talk about the implications of the results and what it means to them and potentially to the community. The method section is where they describe the experimental techniques they used. And the rest is pretty self-explanatory. We have acknowledgments, and then the supplemental information, and the references. So finally, we have the snapshot. And the snapshot is where the journal provides the community with new definitions and lexis that have arisen due to new developments in a particular field of research. In this case, the emerging field of bacterial biofilm electrophysiology. Let's take a look at this. So we have a brief explanation of the subject matter. And if we click on Download PDF, we get this cartoon. It's sideways, but it probably doesn't make it any more confusing to most people. Which puts some of the new terminology in context, you can see. And then we have a more in-depth explanation of this emerging field. So, being a peer-reviewed journal, all the articles that are published in Cell are read and reviewed and revised with feedback from other professionals in the community. And if we go down here and we take a look at the next volume, which is currently in production, we can see that's what's going on. Some of these are in the process of being peer-reviewed. This one's open access. This one is not. And finally, if we just take a look into any article, you can see that at the top of the article, the names of the authors are provided along with their email address, which gives you a way to directly communicate with the authors. And that is it for my guide to volume 170, issue 1 of Cell Journal. Thank you.